joining me today on the Agent Marco Social Media Hour. We've got a very exciting lesson for you here today. We're going to start with the basics of Twitter. And more specifically, we'll be talking about Twitter in the online poker industry. So I'm going to write here, Twitter and poker. Now you see, the origins of Twitter in the online poker world are extremely fascinating.
All right, thank you very much, Marco. It's a great pleasure to have you all the way from Vegas. You must be tired, no?
Yes. No, not really. I'm feeling kind of good. I've looked forward. I've stressed out about this interview all day, Joaquin.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I'm full of adrenaline. I'm ready to go.
We had this amazing heat wave now in Paris. I'm sitting here not trying to...
You have an amazing heat wave in Paris. I'll have you know, sir, that the newspapers here in Las Vegas are reporting record high heats or record high heat. Although maybe I think they print that every summer, but it's pretty hot here. But we should not kick off this episode by arguing about who's living in a hotter city.
I do not envy you. For people who don't know you, you're sort of like a legend in the poker industry, you know? Agent Marco. The quad jacks guy. How would you describe yourself?
Oh boy, I would describe myself as a iGaming enthusiast, someone who certainly got involved in the internet gaming industry, beginning with a passion for poker, for the game of poker. And that was a couple of years ago, and that's what. But a curious guy, and I suppose that I was never content simply enough to play poker. I was curious about who else was playing it, and what were people like who were playing it, and what was the industry like? What was the world like? Where did poker come from? You know, kind of like our origins discussion here on Twitter, and then through.
You sort of like, I mean, you're very knowledgeable about the whole social media sphere and how it works in iGaming. But you told me when we met in Vegas a couple of months ago, you told me that pre your Quadjacks engagement, you were very much antisocial, and you even had your friends setting up your social media profiles for you.
I don't know if I was antisocial. I was always a pretty sociable guy, pretty extroverted too. I think you can still see that. But you're right. I do remember. It was safe to say I was anti-social media, and the reason for this was I have a calendar over here, as if I need to look. But in about a week, I'll be 28. I'll turn 28. My birthday's coming up, and I mentioned that because I think we're still in this period where it matters where you were and how you were growing up when social media kind of began to emerge. In 100 years or something, it's not going to matter because it's social media, I think, or the principles of it or the engines of it will be so ingrained in our society. It's just going to be like people are just going to be born and raised with it. And people now who are born into the social media world are kind of adapting to it. But I was, about 10 years ago or so, I was in high school, and that was the time. That was the mid 2000s. That when MySpace was emerging. That was when not even emerging. Like when MySpace was pretty much, from what I recall, a dominant force in what was then, I guess, the emerging social media space. And in high school, I was not antisocial, and I was not. I was kind of an alternative kid. I was not, I was not part of any cliques. I was not really in with anyone. I remember maybe I was a little bit cynical for your average teenager, and so I would see everyone else do social media. Everyone else was on MySpace, and for me, desirous to be alternative or desirous not to be a part of the regular cliques and crews, I decided that I wanted no part of it. And it's because I saw like people were just the same stupidity, the same foolishness that I'd see in my friends and people around me at the time. they seem to just replicate it, if not magnify it and amplify it on MySpace. So I thought, you know what, this is silly. No, I never want to be part of this.
A lot of people can probably relate to that. But then when you start to get involved in the poker industry, you realize that Twitter was the dominant platform. Everyone in the poker industry was basically on Twitter. Why is Twitter important in the poker industry?
Well, so I know this is going to seem like I'm making it very autobiographical, but I can't help but think now that my train of thought is on the track of, you know, where was I when this was happening? Because I think it does help to put it in perspective. Twitter, I think, is the entire power of Twitter comes from its brevity, from the fact that it's short. I continue to hear people kind of blast Twitter and to say, you know, it's I don't like Twitter because it's too short, because it doesn't let me express myself fully. But they neglect that that's really why Twitter took off, because tweets are easier to write and thus they're easier to consume, and they're easier to read, and it's easier to reply, and it's easier to connect with people. It's probably easier to reply to a tweet than it is to like answer an email, especially one of mine, because mine tend to be
pretty long. It's very easy to create content on Twitter, as you said. You know, it's a mobile-first platform, and you just tap in your characters and you send. But do people actually consume the content?
Yeah, I think they used to. I think it's an interesting question, because you asked me about the poker world, and you know, so.
You're a poker player and you have 250 followers.
Right. So Twitter is appealing to poker players because you know, it's a medium through which you can actually share poker information that's probably that some people might be interested in, like hand history, not even hand histories, but like the way a hand played out, and the poker community has found a way to abbreviate, if not import, pre-existing abbreviations to explain, here's what happened during this hand. It's rare, you know. You can tell the history of a poker hand, the entire course of its history, you know, usually within one tweet, sans commentary. How do you pronounce sans, by the way? Because you're French or you live in France. Sans, sans, S-A-N-S.
I have no idea, but I like your whiteboard.
Okay.
I think you should put it on the whiteboard.
Oh, yes. Now, the word sans, from the French sans.
No, don't get me started. No, stop. But you said,
but yeah, that's an appeal of Twitter and poker for sure. You can tell a poker hand is its own story, and you can actually tell the story of a poker hand in a single tweet if you're using the appropriate abbreviations and such.
I mean, I would totally second everything you said, and I mean, when we look at social media conversations, and particularly in the poker space, I mean, Twitter is obviously the dominant channel, but Twitter's been around for a couple of years. Are there any new channels you see that are emerging? We went to the affiliate conference in Amsterdam last week, and people were talking about Twitch. Do you see Twitch being a channel taking off?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Players, or not at all?
I think so. I personally, I don't spend a lot of time on Twitch, but I certainly see almost everyone do Twitch, and it began, I suppose, a couple of years ago. Like many people, I equate Twitch and poker with Jason Somerville, who had himself, he was from the gaming, well, he was from the video gaming world. He was familiar with how gamers were making Twitch work for them in that space, and so we kind of imported that, and that set the standard. And now it's interesting because the evolution of Twitch, or the dissemination of its popularity, I think it conforms almost to the dissemination and the evolution and the growth of many other social media platforms, including Twitter. You know, Twitter, I think, used to have the early adopters, or the early big adopters. Like, you think a guy like Ashton Kutcher, who is a big name, and he was a big name also at the time he joined Twitter, and he kind of set that standard. He says, look, you know, I'm on Twitter, I'm on this channel, and if you get on it, you have the opportunity to interact with me, maybe even be a little like me. Not so much that we're all going to be movie stars and A-listers, but do what I do, which is share my opinion and try to influence people. And that, it's not only Ashton who set who set that standard. I was about to ask you, like, is someone in the room with you? And then I realized it's me. It's probably my echo. I should probably keep my voice down. But Twitch is doing the same thing. So Jason Somerville had big success with Twitch, and I think a lot of players, like today I was looking through my Facebook, and I've seen some players who are starting to post the same thing. Now Twitch is almost streaming online poker play through Twitch is something that almost every poker player thinks that they should do to be part of that social media poker community. Like come watch, because before that, if they were using Twitter, you could still rail people. So rail means watch a person play. You could still rail people on Twitter by following their updates. Now you can actually watch them play through Twitch.
I'm just thinking that Twitch would be such a much better platform for what Twitter today is used for. You and me were talking about, we read this HBR article the other day you sent me, with the rise of automated, the rise the last couple of years, of automated content on Twitter. I mean, there's just such a big volume of tweeters and tweets that are just automated or semi-automated and not even curated. Twitch wouldn't have that problem of, so to say, spam, because it's pure content. It's content like you and me.
But it's such a different product and a different experience. Like you take a guy like Jason. Again,
it just means that you would have less of click here and get your $500.
Well, no, hold on a second. So, like, I keep using Jason as an example because, like I said, he's the guy I think of when I think of Twitch. I know Jason personally. I like Jason. I follow Jason on Twitter. I'm curious about what Jason might be up to in his life or his career. So, if I go to his Twitter, in a flash, he says, "Hey guys, I'm up to this," and I'll be, "Oh, cool, that's good. I'll sign up for that." On Twitch, though, you're asking someone to sometimes dedicate an afternoon, especially if you're like, "Hey guys, come watch me play this tournament." You're basically asking people, "Hey, come watch me play." Not necessarily the whole tournament. People can tune in and out as they wish, but you're asking for more commitment. Twitter, like we said, its strength, its appeal is in you can get so much content. A single tweet can deliver so much information or emotion if it's a touching tweet, or comedy if it's a joke, if it's making you laugh. So you can get so much of it, and you get it boom, 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 and your stream can just be so fast paced. And Twitch is more like, hey, come sit down and watch some TV with us. It's more similar to that. So it's a different way to engage, and I think that's a big keyword.
Sure,
even if it is a buzzword, it's worth using.
I think a lot of people, especially in the marketing departments of today's online gaming operators, they are still 10 years on after Twitter is launched, asking themselves, how are we going to use this platform? What are we going to use it for? Today we see a lot of brands posting out acquisition offers on Twitter. Their affiliates are using it. They are using it to sort of gain in ranking on SEO with probably questionable effect. What would you say to marketing people sitting in the departments of online poker operators?
About how to use Twitch? Is that what you're asking me?
Twitter.
Oh, Twitter. Oh. Okay, so let me see if I understand the question correctly. So you're saying there's still some people who are kind of unsure how to use it or how to make it work for them, and how would I in the gaming space?
My impression when speaking to marketing people in the online marketing in the iGaming space is that they very much question Twitter. How can we use it? Even though they realize that there are a lot of online poker conversations going around, that there are a lot of poker players using it. They still don't understand how to use it for their own brand.
Yeah, I think you used the keyword there, which is conversation, and it's something like Twitter, especially, which is so conversation based. You join Twitter, I think, in great part because in one way or another you want to have a role in a conversation that's being had, either about your industry or about your product or about you. And advice I would give to anyone really looking to get into social media, and we're going to get to the iGaming example in a moment. But it's why just earlier today or yesterday, because it's almost 2 in the morning here. But yesterday I was talking to someone about social, someone who works for a local business here in Vegas, and she told me, she said, God, you won't believe, I can't even think. I mean, we started so many Facebook accounts or so many Twitter accounts, and to me that suggested that was indicative of something that I see pretty often, which is getting involved with a social platform or signing up or creating an account without really having a clear idea or a clear plan of why you're doing it. Because it's really easy to sign up and create accounts. They make it easy for you. It's so easy to sign up. It's not in their interest to make it complicated. And you see everyone else is on it. And I think a lot of people, companies included, maybe they're just like, hey, somebody, get Richard in this department to create a social something, and we'll see what happens. And maybe people who have never really done it. And some of these businesses, you're right, they predate the, I hesitate to use the word indispensability because I don't think we're there yet, but predate the omni. How's this gonna help us now? And maybe when they sign up and when they create an account and they try it without, maybe waiting to see the magic happen on its own, they don't see it. They don't see, like, we've been on this, but nothing's happening. No one's really following us. We're trying to interject ourselves into some conversations, but it's not, forget it, like this is just a distraction. And so that's invariably going to happen, I think, if you don't have an idea, if you decide, here's what we're going to do social for. And to use an iGaming example, I was, a couple of months ago, I learned about a social media tracking platform, not too dissimilar from your own, distinct enough, but something along the lines of what SCRM does, which is monitor the social media conversations for the benefit of a company's, of a client's knowledge seeking, or provide social media intelligence, basically. And I said, I wonder what, I'm not going to say which company it was, but I thought of an iGaming company, and I know someone who works in their marketing department, and I went to them and I said, hey, check out this what this company can do, what this platform can do. I wonder, like, are you guys, is it something that you guys think you could put to work for your own social media strategy? And I was surprised. At the time, I was surprised because the person basically said, we're not really interested because we use social media mainly to do things like, yes, to keep in touch with the users, but to do things like customer support. If they have a grievance, they know they can tweet at us or something like that, and we'll address it. And yeah, we'll post minimal updates about what we're doing, but we're not so heavy into creating social media content or content which you distribute through social media to acquire users or leads or publicity, which is what this platform would have done. And at the time, that surprised me. I thought, wow, like, it's felt like you're passing up an opportunity here. But in time, I've just kind of been like, you know what, that's fine. Like, they've decided that's what they're going to use social media for. And they're a big company too. They're not starved for resources. And that approach is better than just having a que sera sera approach to social media, and then which will invariably lead to immeasurable results, as you know. Then it's becoming increasingly important to be able to measure what you're doing on social media, how much you're engaging with people, who's responding, who's replying, who isn't replying, or who's not retaliating, who's protesting, or who doesn't seem to be with whom does it not seem to be resonating what you're doing. So have a plan, have a goal. There's different ways to use it. One is simply, hey, if they have an issue, they know we're here, they can talk to us. Another is, holy crap, let's launch the social media campaign of the century and be very creative with it and give people, if you think about it, Joachim, it's not very different from the way people naturally converse. Some people are just different talkers. Some people just converse. I think you can kind of tell. I get excited. I get passionate. I like to start conversations with people, which is probably why I eventually, when I got past my hating stage of social media, I took so well to it. Other people are just a little bit more quiet. They're more reserved, or they only speak when it's necessary, and different attitudes will be reflected. Different real life conversational attitudes, I think, will be reflected through different social media attitudes. There's more than one way you can tweet or decide to launch or deploy a series of tweets.
I think all of us can relate to the fact that it's easy to create a lot of social media platforms and sort of just get in there, because it really doesn't require any budget to create an account. It doesn't really require any approval to create an account. You sit in the marketing departments probably, and you create these profiles, and then the real job starts, and trying to figure out, okay, what do we use these profiles for? And probably that's what you should have thought of before. Are we using it for customer service? How are customer service connected to this? What procedures do we have? What budgets do we have? Do we see customer service as a cost center or a profit center? How do you use it in marketing? How do we use it in sales? How do we use it in retention? And the questions go on. Can we use it in HR, etc., etc.? But I wanted to come back to something. When you were at QuadJax, you said that monitoring online conversations in poker were essentially essential to you.
Sure. Yeah, we were we were around when I was at QuadJax anyway for a couple of years, from 2010 until 2013, and we underwent changes as you know, when I first joined the site, and then as the site grew and developed, and then just as the poker world changed and the iGaming world changed, you know, I started in 2010, and then in 2013. In 2011 was Black Friday, which actually set the path, defined the subsequent path that QuadJax would take a great deal. But the point is, for most of our run, for most of our existence, we were a news content site. We basically produced content around. It began originally before Black Friday. It was more about the poker playing lifestyle, and you know, what were poker players doing. And then when Black Friday happened, it became a little bit more, well, how is the poker world being shaped by this? And maybe let's also look at things like the economics of the poker world and then the online poker world. But at the heart of our stories at QuadJax, at the heart of our stories, of most of them, were always, or almost always, poker players. And poker players, and now and then, I think, then and now, and not just poker players, like just people.
What kind of conversations were you monitoring, and why did you do it? Why was it important?
I always thought of it. You know, I always thought of it sort of as a theater, not to be demeaning about it, but the stories that I think this is. I think there's a tendency in media to do this, but the stories that we chased, or that we tried to seize on, or we try to produce content on more passionately, tended to be those that obviously had an element of drama to it. And drama doesn't have to mean controversy or scandal or hate. I mean, it can just be like, here's a big deal, or here's something that a group of people is really upset about or concerned about. You know, global warming is dramatic.
So you essentially used social media monitoring and monitored online conversations to find
when something is dramatic, when something is dramatic, and it's the sort of thing that people will want to read about, people tend to get emotional about it, and people tend to talk about it. If it's to express their feelings about it. And so, because because Twitter is so popular in the poker world, and so many poker players were on Twitter, and every day it seems there's something, you know, it begins, and a lot of these players know each other, and they see each other right now at the World Series week, where they're all connecting. There's this surge of networking that happens. And so all it really takes is one even medium profile, let's say, I hate to reduce it to profiling, but medium profile poker player with a modest amount of, like, a guy who's won one bracelet, I don't know, something like that, with a modest amount of followers, you know what, today I'm on.
There one bracelet.
In 2015, yes. Well, with the proliferation of more and more bracelets, one would reason that the perceived value. Hey, I don't want to get into that conversation, but you see, that's part of organization. So the point I was going to make is that all it takes is one, mono bracelet winner, one mono braceletist, to say, you know what, this morning I'm unhappy about this, and screw this tournament because this, and that, and that's the thing about Twitter too. Like, because it's so easy to tweet. The closer you are to your device, which permits you to express your opinion, the closer you are to it, the less time you have to talk yourself out of that temptation to tweet or to say something. And because if you wait long enough, I found that a lot of people just be like, well, you know what, maybe I'm not so passionate about this anymore that I'm prepared to start a shitstorm on Twitter. But for a lot of people, that doesn't happen. They tweet and they air out their grievances sometimes very passionately before they have a chance to talk themselves out of doing that, or to try to express it in more rational terms. And we used to love that, because that would create, in the Twitter world, that elicits replies, and then people respond, because it's also very easy to respond and to get confrontational about it. And that if you saw Twitter, if you just looked at Twitter and from Twitter alone you formed your opinion of the human race, you would think we are the most belligerent species. You'd be surprised just how long we've been able to survive for this long without always killing one another. Because in real life, people tend to be more controlled. We all have these
filter in front of us when we physically meet someone.
It's like we might rage internally, but over time, but we don't immediately act upon it. We don't go out and really confront people with it, or hurt people, or try to take people down, especially if they're close to us. And over time, we kind of calm down. It's like, most people are like this. They kind of lose their temper, and then they settle down. But the thing of Twitter, and this is all social media, I think, is that it makes it really easy for you to leave a record, etch a record of your anger. And it's not just anger; it can be any feeling, really. But that which might take a while to dissipate. But if you get angry or upset or emotional about something, the ease with which you can just pull out your phone and let the world know about it, and that remains a matter of, so to speak, public record. That it's not indelible because you can delete it, but it's there for people to see, even after you've cooled down, or maybe you don't feel like arguing about this anymore, or maybe you've changed your mind, but you still have this record of you expressing yourself in this manner. And like I said, it elicits replies, more people discover it, more people comment about it. Suddenly, it's a story upon a story upon a story. And you ask about Quadrax, this is what we would periodically do. We would monitor the conversation. Over time, you kind of develop a sense, like, you can tell, like, holy crap, this guy just tweeted, 30 seconds ago, he just tweeted this, that. You kind of develop a feeling this is the sort of thing that the community will want to either really, get behind this person on, or lambast them, and it's going to turn into something that's just going to be buzzed about and chatted about. But that's not just a poker thing. Like, that happens in all of these social media microcosms. Not even micro, they're pretty large. But one point I made to you earlier about the poker world is that poker has its own celebrities, which are the Phil Hellmuths and the Phil Ivies and the Dan Legrand. It's like, big poker players. And some of these guys have actually assumed celebrity-like lifestyles, in the sense that I think everyone I just named, except Phil Ivey, Hellmuth and Negrano, they're represented by a company named Poker Royalty. This is kind of like a talent agency. They represent the players. They probably, to some degree, keep an eye on what they're saying and aren't saying publicly. They advise on how to carry themselves, their image consultants, etc. But that's few of the really big names in poker. A lot of and especially because in poker you can become a poker celebrity by, like, binking a tournament. Binking means winning. By winning a tournament, a big tournament overnight. So the day before you weren't really well known. Suddenly you're on the front page, so to speak, of every poker news portal and blog, and you're on TV and you're ESPN, and suddenly you're a poker celebrity basically. But you still don't have a celebrity lifestyle. You don't have image consultants and advisors and agents telling you, hey, listen, now that you're someone whom a lot of people are looking at and paying attention to, here's how you should behave, or here's how you might want to consider behaving. So poker doesn't have that as much as, like, say, Hollywood or the music industry. And so I think because of that, it's easier for controversy to break out. And poker players are actually, by definition, not by definition, but they're very individualistic. That's kind of why they go into poker. It's very much an individualistic effort, even though there's certainly a lot of camaraderie and such.
Do you think that's why, platforms like Snapchat are taking off today, that the content is automatically deleted after, a couple of minutes? It can only be seen once, that, the content is not there forever. You can basically be pretty wild in what you say. You don't really need to earn up to it or
I don't know. I think I don't even think Snapchat is free from that.
Platforms that are immensely popular by, increasing the younger demographics.
Well, it's definitely becoming
that they don't want to be monitored, because basically we can't monitor these channels. It's not public content and it's not there forever. It's basically your megaphone out to say whatever you want and then just, forget about it.
Well,
is that going to be attractive for the poker industry, or is that happening already?
I mean, it's what poker. I don't know. I mean, I think
we're gonna sit there on the poker table and Snapchat your
right.
Your
I mean,
hand and
I was gonna say that the things that really threaten the poker world are really, like you said, like, I don't know if that's what you meant, but cheating, for example, and cheating, collusion, who's doing it, and certain technological channels. Now, I don't want to name any particular examples, but there's certainly some technology and the interconnectedness of it too, like the fact that we're all in the apps. Well, there are gaming authorities, but so I shouldn't say in the absence of a surveying authority, but because we have those. But I think there's only so much that they can do to kind of proactively discourage poker player A from trying to screw poker player B. So the poker playing community, in great part, has always been, or not always, but historically, at least in its contemporary form, been its own police body. Everyone is just kind of policing one another, and everyone's watching one another, and social media, I think, plays an important role in that, in at least constructing a network whereby, if you're out to screw somebody, you want to be very careful about how you do it. And certainly, the way I said it, don't try to screw anybody, and get it out of your mind immediately. But if someone is not careful, and hopefully they won't be if they're up to wrongdoing, and they make a misstep, or they're not too cognizant of what they might have said here or what they might have been caught saying there. I mean, the record, kind of like how a record of every poker hand played, the record of every online poker hand played has certainly helped the poker playing community unmask a lot of really heinous online poker cheating. We're talking Ultimate Bet and everything like that. So the digital trail, the digital record, can have a positive effect. And woe to him or her who, in a moment, I've done it too, by the way. I've certainly tweeted or said things on social media on shows like this too, I think, where it's just like, I should have So but it's one thing to get embarrassed or say something embarrassing or that's kind of stupid and you regret it later. It's another to maybe make a serious a faux pas that gives away perhaps more unsavory parts of your character. Now, I don't know, I'm sure I can. Well, you take a guy like Phil Hellmuth, for example, and this is not so much a social media example, but the guy he's known to be a disagreeable guy playing poker because of all the blow-ups he's had on TV. And he's certainly not, I don't think that hasn't completely stopped him from becoming popular and becoming someone. In fact, this attitude is kind of a marketability factor for him. But he still has lots of people in poker. He's created almost undue enemies, unnecessary enemies by treating some people so poorly on camera. And I think social media provides those same opportunities. Like, if you're disagreeable or you're not nice to people in poker or elsewhere, or you don't give off a good vibe and you're not trustworthy, and if that shows, then social media is going to be a place where it can be shown, and people will be able to learn that.
Marco, it's been an absolute pleasure to listen to your stories. I think they're
really
very fascinating.
Is that
if people want to get
absolute pleasure?
If people want to get in touch with you and talk more with you and work with you, how do they best?
Well, they can certainly tweet at me on the subject of social media. You can see my Twitter handle is listed underneath there, right where my enormous finger. And that's not just the fact that I'm holding up close to the camera. I hit my hand shortly before this recording, and my finger is swollen to the size. You see it now. It's twice the size of my head. God, am I manicured? Oh gosh,
you're basically,
there's a little dirt in there.
You basically yes, and you work with iGaming companies, helping them with everything from operations to strategy related to content and social media.
Right, except for the ones who ask for the opposite of help. So sometimes they'll call me and they say, "Hey, Marco, we need you to completely devastate all the good and progress we've done in social media." And I'm like, all right, I can screw things up for you if you want me to. So yeah, it kind of depends on what the client wants.
All right, Marco, thank you very much. You have a really good day.
Thank you, Joaquin, and thanks so much. I had a lot of fun talking with you, and hope to do so again soon. Ciao. Good luck, everyone. Bye.